Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, I have a new watch build. Just really quickly before we get started, I wanted to thank you all for tuning in and watching what I do. As of the filming of this video, I have over 300 subscribers. I never really thought that many of you would be interested in my little hobby here, but I thank you guys for watching and for subscribing. With that, let's get on to the wrist check. So today, I'm wearing a watch that you might be familiar with. This is my AliExpress Homage Panerai watch. Now this watch is in my rotation and I do wear this on a regular basis. So if you haven't checked that video out, I'm going to put a link to it up here somewhere. Give it a watch. And with that, let's get on to the build. Now, if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I've built watches such as the two Homage Panerais, one from parts purchased from AliExpress and one from parts purchased from eBay. And I've made an NH36 Seiko Homage type dive watch. Today's going to be something a little different. This watch, also parts from AliExpress, everything you see here came from AliExpress, is going to be a GMT watch. Now, for those of you who do not know, a GMT watch is a watch where you have an extra hand that you can set to a different time. I typically actually set mine to GMT so that I know what time it is in London because the company I work for has offices in London. So without further ado, let's get all these parts out and take a look. We have here a nice little set of white loomed hands with a blue GMT hand. I'm going to zoom in here for just a little bit. There we go. We have our crown stem. We have two spring bars, and we have a bunch of little screws, which we'll get to in a moment as to why there's a bunch of little screws there. We have here a crown stem, which is kind of hard to see here, but there is a crown stem for this NH34 automatic GMT movement. Get this NH34 GMT movement out of the bag here. This is an NH34A movement, apologies. And again, all of this came from AliExpress. And we have a dial, which is kind of a dressier dial. A little bit dressier than I normally go for on watches, but I wanted to try something a little different today. And here is why we need all of those screws. We have our display back. We have our crystal. And that all gets attached to this case with screws. So the crystal itself has screw holes, or screw mount points, I guess. And then the case back actually has holes through there. So I don't really expect a whole lot of waterproofness in here, as there are literally no gaskets involved. But I like the design, so I'm going to go with it. Now, one thing I'm not a terrible fan of in this one is this watch band. You see it's a 18 to 19 mil. It says it's genuine calf leather, but I don't know, it kind of looks a little cheap to me. We'll see. I mean, it is an AliExpress watch after all, but I'm going to put it together and see what I think at the end of the video. Okay, so before we go any further, there's one piece that I do on quite a lot of occasions forget about initially. Seemingly very stuck. Little guy right here. Now to put our dial on. I'm going to try to show you this. This is our dial foot here. This is our dial foot here. Now, I do not see any place to put screws, nor do I see any place to tighten down a screw. Actually, I see a place to put the screws, but I don't see any screws in here at all that would indicate that they are dial feet screws. All of this kit came together except for the movement itself, and the movement itself doesn't seem to have any dial feet, so we're gonna hope that the case holds everything together. So unlike the other watches I've built, this watch has a GMT hand, which is the first hand that we will put on. So my first step is to wind the time out until it gets to midnight and changes over. And I'm going to try to get this as close as possible. And there. So that would tell me that's midnight. Now, the first hand that goes on, like I was saying, was my GMT hand, which is this nice blue hand here. And another fun thing I found in this particular build is that my standard tool here for pressing down the hands is not quite big enough to do it for this. So I found a little workaround, which is to use a pair of tweezers to push the hand in place. Then we just need to check to see how horizontal we are. That looks pretty close, but I'm just going to give it a little bit of a bump there. That looks pretty spot on. So now that we've done that, we're going to rotate and hope that by the time we get back to 24, we change over the date once more. You can't ask for much more accuracy than that. So next is our hour hand. These do have some loom on them. I'm not quite sure how bright it's actually going to be. Some of you guys out there have accused me of being very heavy-handed. And a suggestion was made that I get a better camera. Well, unfortunately, as it stands now, I don't have the funds to do that, but it is something I'm considering because I would like to be able to show you guys as much stuff as possible. And also, I am quite heavy-handed because I'm learning as I go. So initially, I would expect to be quite heavy-handed in this. So we're just trying to get the hour dial on now. And again, this is the same process as before with the GMT hand. I'm just trying to get it as level as possible. And you can see here that it's just tweaked upwards just a little bit. Just boop it a scotch here. You want to get it close, but not too close to the GMT hand, which I think I just might have done. So let's see if we can raise it back up a little bit. There we go. You can always make this adjustment by just kind of putting a little bit more pressure up or down on the hands. You don't want to push too hard. So that looks okay to me. It's not perfect, but it looks okay. So we're moving the hands to see if they operate properly, and I'll come back on the 12 to change the date. That is close enough for me for the hour and the GMT hand. So now we will proceed on to the minute hand. Again, same process. Trying to get the minute hand as close to the 12 as possible. As close to the 12 as possible. And now, another test. If we did everything right, let's check that again. Our date changes over 10 minutes before midnight. I think we can do better than that. So let's gently remove our minute hand. And we'll test our hour and our GMT. And now that we know that that is switched over, let's give this minute hand another try. So yeah, as I was saying before, I do probably look a little heavy-handed because, one, I'm learning. So you guys know that I'm probably not using all the correct tools, or even all the correct tools in the correct way. And two, I get kind of nervous, honestly. Like, this is kind of nervous trying to put together a watch for you guys and figure all this stuff out as I go along. And then make sure I'm not telling you guys the wrong thing to do. And again, we're just going through and making sure our hands are as level as possible. And it looks all right to me. All right, so let's go ahead and test. And the goal here is to get all three hands back to the 24 so that when midnight switches around, well, that may be the closest we're gonna get, honestly. So I think I'm just gonna leave it there. It's not really gonna matter. 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna be asleep at midnight anyway, so. Last but not least, our second hand. Zoom in just a little bit here. Second hands are always a tricky thing for me. Yeah. See if I can get in a little closer so I can see what I'm doing. This is turning out to be a little trickier than most. There's a tiny, tiny little hole there that I've got to mount this tiny, tiny little mount point in. Without damaging the watch or the hands. One thing I have done to help my back in all this is I've installed a standing desk so that I can see what I'm doing and I don't have to hunch over everything. There we go. Now, do the same thing as before just to make sure that, like that, we're not catching the second hand. So now it's just a matter of tweaking the watch so that the second hand is not bent down. The other hands can pass under it. Which may require some slight tweaking of the other hands here. Let's see. If we look closely, we can see that the hour hand can stand to come down a little bit. Which would also help the minute hand. Not too far. There we go. Now, we just need to tweak that second hand just a little bit. Which I will do off camera and get back to you. All right, after some slight tweaking of the second hand, God damn it. All right, so after some tweaking of the second hand, it is now running properly. And so we're going to make one more revolution. And as you can see, this is actually a hacking movement as the second hand stopped. Actually kind of excited about that. Just for better accuracy of timing. And I really like this dial. And as I said before, we're a little off on the minute hands, but that doesn't really matter. But there we go. So our next step is going to be to get this crown stem out. To do that, I'm going to gently place the watch in this movement holder. Then should just be able to press on this lever here. And there you go. Just checking our hands again. All still straight. So in previous watch builds, you would drop the dial inside the case and then put the back on. However, so with this case, we're going to have to put the dial in, get it seated, install this case, or install this crystal temporarily, just so I can flip the whole thing over, because now it's the fun part of this build. You guys know how much I enjoy measuring crown stems. We're going to take our crown stem, and I'm going to screw the crown on temporarily. If you guys have a better way of doing this, please let me know. This is such a pain in the butt. I'm never really sure if I'm threading this properly anyway. I guess as long as it's not cross-threaded, it's okay. That's about as tight as I can get it. So we install the crown stem back into our movement, which may require some tweaking of the movement inside the watch, because our hole for the crown is not exactly lined up. Should just be able to turn it just a little bit. And then pressing down again right here, or right here, should allow us to get the stem in. Now that the stem is in, we take our trusty calipers. We're going to measure from the back of the crown to the outside of the watch case, and it looks like about 7.8 millimeters. We're going to hope that we get this right on the first go, because I don't think I have any spares. We could always do like we did on the Panerai build and just use the test stem if we have to. And then we're just going to take our measurements here. And I'm going to start a little bit longer than I have to, and we can always work our way back. Keep her a little bit more. So try not to cross thread the crown onto the stem, but I think I might have extras if I end up doing that. So Let's see. Wow, did we get it right on the first try? Looks like it. So let's flip the watch over. Make sure that that's adjusting that. Push it, click in, and you're adjusting GMT. And if we go the other way, it should change the date. We pull all the way out, and we see that our hand hacks, and we're able to stop the seconds. That seems good enough for me. So our next step is to pull the crown back out. Just a moment. Sharpen the pegwood up a little bit here. So we press down right there. Now we've got our crown stem out. Our next step is to take the crown off the stem and then put some Loctite on there. Now, I've also been told that I am using the wrong Loctite, and I'm actually fine with that. This Loctite apparently requires heat to take the crown off the stem. Just gonna get a little bit of that there. And repeat our tightening process. Put the crown stem back in the watch. And there we have it. I'll do one final check to make sure everything looks like right on the front. Everything looks wonderful. Now the fun part, closing this up. So I was wrong before, there is a gasket right there. So what I'm going to do to help out and make it as water resistant as possible is we are going to lube that up. Put that right back in place. Going to make sure that our watch is lined up. So we've got this notch here should match up to our crown. We line our holes up there. And each one of these little screws has a little tiny gasket in it as well. It's very, very, very hard to see, but I think at this point we can remove these. I'm not touching anything on the inside of the watch. Line the screw holes up there. The hardest part of this build is going to be putting the back on. All right, and now I'm going to tighten this screw. Try to double check and make sure they were lined up front. This is going to be the trickiest part of this build, because I have no real indication, and that spot that I showed you earlier for the crown on the front still gives this thing so much play that it's really hard to line up. Let's see. See, you've got the screw holes that come all the way through. And we should just be able to line it up that way. Once I get the first one in, the rest of them should be a piece of cake. Let's see if I can manage it with another one. Hey, there we go. Got one in. Two in. There we go. Now we're cooking. Now we can just put all the other ones in. It's a really nice case back on here. I really like that. I like the display case back pretty good. I'm going to use a slightly bigger screwdriver so I don't break any of these screws. One there. We'll switch sides. And now we just go around. Tighten them back up. There it is. A nice little GMT build. Complete with parts from AliExpress. Now we're going to try this strap. And again, I'm not so sure that I like it, but we'll see how it looks after getting it on the watch. Feel pretty lucky that I was able to do that crown stem in the first try, and that we were able to get the crown to go on properly. There we go. I'll get this sized up and be right back. All right, so we are back. Take a look at this. A nice little AliExpress GMT build on a decent looking strap. I'm not really sure if I like it yet or not, but you tell me, what do you think about this? Does it match? Does it look good? It's got its quick release here. Set our GMT time. Set our regular time. Change the date. It winds and it hacks. So I hope you guys have liked watching this video as much as I have making this video and this watch. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. Sorry for the shaky camera. I'm working on that. My name is Bryant. This is the Last Stop Watch channel. Have a great day, guys.